Hi, I'm Vic Tiscarino, CEO, co-founder, and designer of the VZR Model 1 headphone. I'm from Issaquah, Washington, and it's near Seattle. I'm down here in Irvine, California, doing this latest CanJam. We're located in Issaquah, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle, and we, are making the Model 1, which is somewhat a gaming-centric headphone in the fact that it's just got a chat microphone on it. That's what makes it a gaming headset. You pull it off, it's a headphone. We've been now shipping for about 30 to 35 days now, and we look forward to a successful path with the product. This is the VZR Model 1. Let me show you here, and you can see right here where the microphone actually plugs in. Right here is a chat mic, and one of the things that we did is that we try to make sure that it's highly damped as far as the enclosures are concerned. Use real carbon fiber here. This has got some special mechanical damping at this point, so it keeps the enclosure from doing an oil can. This is all aluminum casting and stainless steel, and a pretty nice headband. It's also self-adjusting, so it counterbalances on your head. So once you do it, you leave it alone. Memory foam, and it's about as simple as I can describe it. We think it does a pretty good job for gaming because it does a good job in spatializing 3D audio. And gamers need good audio. Most of what they have is the visual impact, and the audio is just there. But they really need accuracy because of footsteps, footfall, gunfire, somebody above you, below you. And the more accurate the headphone can render that, the better it is for gaming. I've heard some high-end headphones that have beautiful, lush sound, but it's all in my head, left and right, and not much pushed out. And matter of fact, they do a poor job on 3D audio as far as spatializing it. And so we really focused on trying to give a very accurate sphere of sound around the gamer or the user. And it turns out the difference between 3D audio and stereo is not a lot. Still two wires. So you got stereo left and right with heavy panning, and they're mixed over speakers. So from the mix engineer's point of view, he's got two speakers in front and a phantom center, and everything's in front. So everything's kind of, the illusions push forward. With 3D audio, it's everywhere. The development process is actually a bit longer. It's about 3 years of development. We've got a patent in our technology called Crosswave. Crosswave, a brief description, is just simply a device that fits over the driver that provides an acoustic lens. We took a look at how the distortion and radiation pattern of the driver and how we hear, because you're not quite occluding the ear canal, you're not occluding the ear, but you almost are. So you have to take that all into account, and how the sound is distributed across the ear. So you're still using the outer ear, just not the same if it was in open free field. I was working in, started building high-end audio gear from vacuum tube amplifiers, solid state, back as a company called Audio Prism. We later merged with a gentleman by the name of Mark Levinson. Mark Levinson is a gentleman that started really the high-end audio trend in the early 70s. Later, his company transformed a couple of times, and it's now owned by Harman. You may have seen it in your Lexus automobile as Mark Levinson Audio. And in 2004, I was recruited by Steve Jobs to come and set up his first consumer electronics lab, and they had some special projects they wanted me to start on. One of the first tasks was to try to put some adult supervision, I'll call it, on the little earbuds. They wanted to improve the reliability. They wanted to ensure that we were getting the technical quality that we needed. While they were a pack into the iPod at the time, they had to also have the same reliability and quality, in a sense, that the device had. When they're packed in together, if any one single part fails, it goes back as the complete system, and that's expensive. So you had to have good reliability. They had to go through the washer. I've seen them. I've been in a lot of airports where I saw the earbuds going, being twirled around, and they have to survive a lot of technical things. So yeah, 100 million plus headphones. I would say there's the team and I have a lot of our fingerprints on that stuff, even though it's a very simple earbud. In 2007 or 8, I began looking at 3D audio, spatialized audio, when I was at Apple. And now that's a very big thing now at Apple. They're really pushing spatialized audio, and I understand why, and I understood it in 2008. So it's interesting that's kind of come, I don't want to say full circle, but come around and come to light and saw the light of day. Something I started in 2008. So it is important. Spatialized audio is stereo. It's just in front of you, and our technology Crosswave kind of helps. It's not DSP. It's a passive device, but does help you. It helps render that stereo image a little bit better than without, for sure. It's easy when you're building high-end audio to throw a lot of money at something. More expensive drivers. I mean, that's obviously the heart and engine of the whole thing, is to develop the driver. The driver can take roughly about a year to develop, depending on, it's a little bit longer now that a lot of the drivers, or the supply chain for that stuff, is over in Asia. But even if you build your own, it's a long slog to get that stuff down and correct. So anybody that's in the space knows what I'm talking about. But getting that right, and then getting all the other things that you got to be profitable, or you're not going to stay in business. So the challenges are, how do you make the thing look attractive, mechanically sound, and sound good? Are many of the challenges. I think maybe a second part of this is everybody perceives sound differently. Everyone. I remember doing a lot of I'll call clinical studies back at Apple, and we've done our own in-house as much as we can about what all everybody perceives sound differently. We all see things differently. Have you ever been in the situation when, and we're not talking about people being colorblind, but when they're trying to pick out a shade, and they say, well, that's a little bit, that's not green, that's chartreuse. Or it's all of a sudden you get these little fine slivers of, okay, it's in the green family. Okay, so audio is kind of the same way.
Is the dress blue or gold?
Yeah, you got it. So you got to have a bit of a thick skin. I've had some professional audio guys say the bass is very accurate, and other people say, hey, there's something wrong here. But one of the things that the pros told me, that these particular guys anyway, is, well, first of all, most headphones don't deliver very low bass. I'm talking low bass. A lot of people think low bass is 60 hertz. Honda Civic trunk lid rattling stuff is around 50, 60 hertz. It's not very low. It sounds low, but it's not. And it turns out that a lot of composers and musicians now are using that extra little low frequency. I've measured it. It's down to 23 hertz. Now, it's a fat bass note. So you can't hear 23 that well. You'd have to use a lot of power, and a lot of content. Movie producers and sound creation right now are using every bit of it. It's the theatrical sound, the sound of it being in the theater. I've got some stuff downstairs. I'll be happy to show you guys of the latest Dune.
Yeah.
And when you're listening to bass that's been created and mixed for a theatrical room, where you're sitting in the middle of the dub stage and the speakers are off, that's a lot different than taking that same content and trying to put it to your head. You've got bone conduction, you got resonance through the headband. So there's a lot of things that are in the mix of what we hear. Just because they're soft ear pads doesn't mean that you can't get a higher frequency to transconduct through that, and then you get bone conduction of a higher frequency that's not necessarily acoustically heard. That's part of the mix. So there's a lot of things you have to take into account, and of course we're starting off and we're getting feedback, and you crank the screws a little bit here, crank the screws there. But I wanted to deliver in order to do proper gaming, or you've got a content creator or somebody working behind them, doing a mix, the broadest headphone. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I've heard this from other people, what they do when they're mixing. Well, I use this one for bass, and I use this one for mid-range treble. So isn't this one good enough for that? Well, no, because no one headphone for them covers that range. And they have different reasons for using the tools that way, but anyway, we're trying to deliver something that's a little bit broader, and we're hoping to achieve, and maybe we've done it so far.